All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere and hopeful elect Akim, Ma'a Arabayim Arabai Alak. That's to say 144,000 in the Lashawan Kodash. Okay, that's what we're praying that we're a part of. And, that's what we're fighting for. That's who we fight for. All right. Hoping we're of that number, So with this lesson, I want to get into the Apostle Tahar had mentioned recently in one of his videos about, the so-called Israelis having these five red heifers that they want to, I don't know if they sacrificed them already or if they have plans on doing that, but the point is that they think that by sacrificing those heifers they're actually fulfilling the law, in which they're not. All right, they're not the people of the book. Okay, they're not the people of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and really everything they're doing is all vanity. It's all vain. So this here is from Middle East Eye. It's an article, and it's from 2024, August 7th. So that's last year. All right, the summer of last year. And I'm going to read this article, and it says, Israelis practice red heifer ritual in front of Al-Aqsa Mosque. So these Israelis are some straight demons. Here it is. They're so-called practicing this ritual in front of a mosque. Why the hell is you doing that in front of a mosque? All right, mosques belong to so-called Muslims. What purpose is there for you to be doing this in front of a mosque? All right, showing you that they just don't know what the hell they're doing, right? So it says some religious groups believe the ashes of the cows can be used to build a third Jewish temple in Jerusalem, and that's wrong. Okay, the third temple is a spiritual temple, right? And that spiritual temple is the members of the elect. All right, Yahweh Shai's body, the believers of Yahweh Shai of the elect, which are all Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians out there. All right, the elect of us. All right, Abaratazai would be of that number. The elect is that temple. Okay, so everything they're doing over there, the Israelis are doing, is all in vain. All right. You see that that this ritual that they performed didn't stop them Iranians from shooting missiles, sending bombs and stuff. Okay, sending rockets. All right, so it says getting to this article, it says a group of religious Israelis have been pictured practicing the ritual of the red heifer, which is meant to herald the building of a new Jewish temple on the site of Al-Aqsa Mosque. According to Jewish tradition, all right, which Jewish has nothing to do with the Israelites, it says the ashes of a perfectly red heifer cow are needed for the ritual purification that would allow a third temple to be built in Jerusalem. All right, and that's not the purpose of the heifers. We're gonna get it in the scriptures, but off the bat, they're wrong. Okay, it's not for the purpose of building a temple. It says a temple, say radical Jewish groups, must be constructed on the raised plateau of Jerusalem's old city, known as the Temple Mount, where Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock shrine stand today. Okay, wrong again. Some believe this will herald the arrival of the Messiah and possibly even the end of the world. All right, so we are in the end of the world, but that has nothing to do with, this so-called ritual that these Israelis are performing. It says temple worshippers are now practicing the mitzvah, religious duty of the red cow in front of the Temple Mount, which will enable the return of purity and the observance of all the temple mitzvah, posted journalist Yinon Magal on Tuesday, along with a picture of activists from the Temple Institute. It says in 2022, 5 red heifers arrived in Israel from a Texas ranch and are now kept in an archaeological park next to Shiloh, an illegal Israeli settlement near the Palestinian city of Nablus. The Temple Institute imported the heifers for the eventual purpose of using them in a ritual after years of searching for blemish-free cows without a stray white or black hair. It says their eventual slaughter on the Mount of Olives will, according to advocates, allow Jewish people to be purified so they can perform rites and worship on the site of Al-Aqsa Mosque. All right, now there's more to it, but these Israelis are completely wrong. All right, completely wrong. Now, I'm going to read the account in the NLT, Numbers 19, dealing with the purpose of the red heifers. Okay, so this is it says the water of purification. It says the Lord Yahweh said, and this is Numbers 19:1 in the NLT, said to Moses and Aaron, "Here is another legal requirement commanded by Yahweh. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer, a perfect animal that has no defects and has never been yoked to a plow." All right, now these red heifers, the 5 that came from Texas that are over in Israel, if they're still alive or whatever the case was, have they ever been yoked to a plow? Have they ever been, put to labor like that? Who knows? And if they have been, then that's a strike on them. All right, null and void. Your sacrifice is not worthy. Try again. Okay. It says, give it to Eleazar the priest, and it will be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar will take some of its blood on his fingers, and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tabernacle. As Eleazar watches, the heifer must be burned, its hide, meat, blood, and dung. Eleazar the priest must then take a stick of cedar, a hyssop branch, and some scarlet yarn and throw them into the fire where the heifer is burning. And who knows if they actually even did that? All right, those so-called Israelis. Who knows if they actually took a stick of cedar and some scarlet yarn and a bunch of hyssop branch, and threw it actually in the fire. Who knows if they actually even did that? All right. Then the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. Afterward, he may return to the camp, though he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. The man who burns the animal must also wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and he too will remain unclean until evening. Then someone who is ceremonially clean will gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them in a purified place outside the camp. They will be kept there for the community of Israel to use in the water for purification ceremony. This ceremony is performed for the removal of sin. Okay, so this ceremony, all right, is performed to remove sin. All right, not what these gutter rats is talking about. Okay, not what they're talking about. Here in this paragraph here, purification that will allow a third temple to be built in Jerusalem. No, that's not what this purification is performed for. It's performed for the removal of sin. All right, and that only pertains to the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native and Seminole Indians. Okay, not Israelis. Israelis are Edomites. They do not come from the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They come from the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. All right. Verse 10, it says, the man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. This is a permanent law for the people of Israel and any foreigners who live among them. All those who touch a dead human body will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves on the third and seventh day with the water of purification. Then they will be purified. But if they do not do this on the third and seventh days, they will continue to be unclean even after the seventh day. All right, so we see that the ashes was, mixed with that water to purify sin, to cleanse sin, and also for the purpose of making you clean. Okay, if you came in contact with a dead body, you needed to be clean. You needed to be cleansed of that. All right, so you had to purify yourself on the third and seventh day. All right, now in the article they mentioned nothing about that. Okay, it says all those who touch a dead body and do not purify themselves in the proper way defile Yahweh's tabernacle. So the Lord didn't want Israelites, you touching dead bodies, and you say for instance you're a coroner, you embalming people. I'm talking about, which we didn't have that. We didn't embalm in the nation of Israel. We didn't embalm people. All right, we didn't do all that. But say for instance now currently in this world you have people, that are coroners, that are 24/7 around dead bodies, touching dead bodies and all kind of stuff like that. You can't just go up in the temple. You'll defile the temple, man. The Lord is a living power, but here it is. Your whole job is centered around dead people. All right, so the Lord didn't want that in His presence, in His sanctuary, in the tabernacle. So you had to be thoroughly purified and clean. Okay. So once again, verse 13, all those who touch a dead body and do not purify themselves in the proper way defile the Lord's tabernacle, Yahweh's tabernacle, and they will be cut off from the community of Israel. All right, not Israelis, but Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives. All right. Since the water of purification was not sprinkled on them, their defilement continues. This is the ritual law that applies when someone dies inside a tent. All those who enter that tent and those who were inside when the death occurred will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. All right, so that the ashes served a purpose for a couple of different reasons. All right, if you accidentally, or you was around a dead body, you touched a dead body, or you was in the house when somebody died, or you went into the house after somebody died, okay, so on and so forth. It says any open container in the tent that was not covered with a lid is also defiled. All right. If someone is, and if someone in an open field touches the corpse of someone who was killed with a sword or who died a natural death, or if someone touches a human bone or a grave, that person will be defiled for 7 days. All right, because you had, people that died all the time. Family members give up the ghost. You got your father or your mother pass away, You know what I'm saying? And you gotta bury them. All right, you're defiled, man. Okay, you're defiled. You're unclean. So you need to be cleansed. All right. Verse 17, it says, to remove the defilement, put some of the ashes from the burnt purification offering in a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then someone who is ceremonially clean must take a hyssop branch and dip it into the water. That person must sprinkle the water on the tent, on all the furnishings in the tent, and on the people who were in the tent, also on the person who touched a human bone, or touched someone who was killed or who died naturally, or touched a grave. On the third and seventh days, the person who is ceremonially clean must sprinkle the water on those who are defiled. Then, on that seventh day, the people being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe themselves, and that evening they will be cleansed from their defilement. But those who become defiled and do not purify themselves will be cut off from the community, for they have defiled the sanctuary of Yahweh. Since the water of purification was not sprinkled on them, they remain defiled. Okay, this is a permanent law for the people, and best believe when we get into the kingdom, when we go back to our homeland, all right, when we go back to Israel, this law is going to be kept. Okay, it's going to be kept because the heathen is going to have to, you know, there's going to be death amongst them, not amongst the nation of Israel, but the heathen aren't going to have everlasting life. So they'll constantly go through a cycle of you know, having to bury loved ones and so on and so forth. So they're going to have to be purified. All right. So this law will be kept in the kingdom. All right. Verse 21. This is a permanent law for the people. Those who sprinkle the water of purification must afterward wash their clothes, and anyone who then touches the water used for purification will remain defiled until evening. Anything and anyone that defiles that a defiled person touches will be ceremonially unclean until evening. So that there serves the purpose of the red heifer. Okay, it was burnt. All right, and the ashes. The heifer was burnt with cedar, hyssop, and what did it say? Scarlet. Let me see. A hyssop branch, a stick of cedar, and scarlet yarn. Okay, so that was all burnt, and those ashes was taken to a purified place outside the camp. And then you had you know, the water that was mixed with it, and it was sprinkled on what was ceremonially unclean, what was unclean. You know, the person or you know, the house or the tent. If you know, somebody had passed in it, you know, went back to the spirit road. That's the purpose of the red heifer. All right, not these Israelis thinking that those 5 red heifers is gonna give them the okay and the justification to build a third temple, which once again, like I said, the third temple is the elect of the nation of Israel, the body of Yahweh Shai. Okay, so this is Psalm 50:16. It says, "But unto the wicked, the Most High saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth?" All right. In the NLT it says, "But the Most High says to the wicked, Why bother reciting my decrees and pretending to obey my covenant?" All right. So, you know, the wicked of the nation of Israel, this applies to them, but this can also apply to the heathen, all right, in particular, them Israelis, all right, because they're the wicked, All right, the wicked of the earth, the most wicked, defiled, reprobate, evil nation created is the so-called Israelis. All right, which stem from the nation of Edom. What business do they have? Pretty much chopping up, what the Lord has said pertaining to, the red heifers, their purpose. Now Esau take certain things in the scriptures and put a demonic twist on it, and people believe it to be law, which we clearly see that's how they're going about those red heifers is not in the scriptures, man. It's not in the scriptures. All right, they're completely bugged out. All right, doing whatever they want to, and it's not justified by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay. Verse 17, KJV, excuse me. It says, "Seeing thou hatest instruction, and casteth my words behind thee." Okay, because Esau, they hate instruction, and the Bible is a book of instruction. Okay, there's all kind of instructions in the scriptures, but what does Esau do? He hates instruction, which is why he constantly does his own thing. He puts his own twist on the scriptures. It says, "When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentedest with him, and has been partakers with adulterers." All right. So Esau does his own thing, which is anything outside of what the Heavenly Father says do. That's what Esau is going to do. Okay. Which proves him to be the wicked. And lastly, this is John 14 and verse 30. And this is Yahushua speaking the words of Yahushua. This is verse 30 in the KJV. It says, John 14:30, "Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me." So the prince of this world, which is the same world initially of the time of Yahushua, because at that time you had the Romans that was in power. All right, which are Edomites. And it's the same thing today. The Romans are back in power, which are Edomites. America is the Roman Empire revived. And based upon all this technology, this AI, vaccines, and Esau's promotion of there's no such thing as God ain't real, and all that, which is spearheaded by this technology and science and all that. We clearly see how the prince of this world, Esau, Edom, all right, Satan, has nothing in Yahushua. These Edomites, as messed up as this world is, they are not looking to the scriptures, following the scriptures, the way the scriptures are meant to be followed. They're not looking to that as an alternative or the answer to, all the problems in society the world over. The societies the world over, should I say. All right, you don't have Esau doing that. They still think there's some type of way that they can tweak the current system they have set up, and all the problems is gonna go away. All the answers is gonna miraculously appear, and America's gonna be made great again. And no, you can't have a perfect world outside of the scriptures. So everything Esau is gonna do is gonna fail drastically. Everything Esau is going to do is going to fail drastically, because he has nothing to do with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They're the devil, according to the Bible. All right. So that pretty much wraps up the lesson. I just wanted to bring that out. the whole issue with the red heifers is pretty much Esau wishing on a star, so to say. Okay, so Abaratazah, that was edifying. Till next time, I say shalom.